The 4th Academy's training hall buzzes with the usual afternoon noise. Seo Jun-ho is on his back before he even knows what hit him. His wooden practice sword clatters away across the stone floor. A boot presses down on his chest. Jang Hyun-woo grins down at him. All teeth and zero mercy. The entire class stops to watch. Nobody moves to help. Still the weakest student in the academy, Jun-ho. The boot grinds harder. Jun-ho's ribs scream, but he doesn't give the bully the satisfaction of a sound. Jang Hyun-woo is everything Jun-ho isn't. Rich family, rare class, top marks, and the kind of confidence that comes from never losing. The boys' fire attribute swordsman class puts him in the academy's top 10. Jun-ho's mirror mage class puts him at the bottom. It's been this way since Jang Hyun-woo broke Jun-ho's arm 5 years ago. The prodigy leans closer, voice dripping with contempt. He tells the trash on the floor that watching him train is an insult to real fighters. Then he makes it official. A public challenge. Right here, right now. No backing out. The rules are simple. Wooden swords. First to yield or get knocked out loses. Jun-ho's stomach drops. Every eye in the hall fixes on him. Some kids smirk. Others just look embarrassed for him. Yoon So-yeon pushes through the crowd, her face pale with worry. She's been his friend since they were kids, back before classes and rankings and all this nonsense. She tells him he doesn't have to do this. But Jun-ho knows how these things work. Refuse a public challenge, and you're branded a coward forever. Being the weakest coward is somehow even worse than just being the weakest. He gets to his feet, dusts himself off, and picks up his wooden sword. His hand shakes. He can't stop it. Jang Hyun-woo laughs and tells everyone to watch closely. Says he'll show them exactly how a real prodigy handles garbage. They square off in the center of the hall. The class forms a loose ring around them, hungry for entertainment. Kang Min-suk, a fellow bottom ranker who's always been decent to Jun-ho, catches his eye from the crowd. The kid gives him a small nod. It's not much, but it's something. The duel starts. Jang Hyun-woo moves first, fast, precise, brutal. His wooden blade cracks against Jun-ho's shoulder before the weaker boy even raises his guard. The impact sends Jun-ho stumbling sideways. Pain explodes through his arm. A second strike catches him across the ribs. He gasps, doubles over, and the crowd winces. Jang Hyun-woo is toying with him. He could end this in one clean hit, but he wants to drag it out. Wants everyone to see the gap between them. Jun-ho swings wildly, desperate. The prodigy sidesteps like he's dodging a toddler. Then he slams his sword into Jun-ho's back with enough force to send him crashing to his knees. Seo-yeon screams his name. The world spins. Jun-ho's vision blurs at the edges, and his lungs burn and everything hurts. And then something strange happens. A warmth spreads from his pocket, right where he keeps that old hand mirror he found in a forbidden section of the library 1 year ago. A mirror he'd picked up on a whim, thinking it might be worth a few coins. The mirror that had felt oddly heavy ever since. It glows now. He can see the light through the fabric of his uniform. White hot and pulsing, like a second heartbeat. Jang Hyun-woo raises his sword for the finishing blow. He tells Jun-ho to stay down next time. Tells him to know his place. The blade comes down, and something inside Jun-ho snaps, but not in the breaking way, in the unlocking way. Power floods his limbs. It's like someone dumped liquid fire into his veins, and his muscles just drank it up. His grip on the wooden sword tightens until his knuckles go white. He moves. Not gracefully. He's still the Academy's weakest fighter, and that doesn't change overnight. But he's fast now. Way faster than he should be. His sword meets Jang Hyun-woo's mid-swing and stops it cold. The impact rattles up both their arms. The prodigy's eyes go wide. He wasn't expecting resistance. Jun-ho shoves forward, and Jang Hyun-woo actually staggers. The crowd gasps. Someone whispers that it's impossible. Jun-ho doesn't feel impossible. He feels like a dam that just burst. Every hit he took in the last 2 minutes is paying back. His power has doubled, and doubled again. He swings. Not wild this time, focused. Wooden blade connects with Jang Hyun-woo's side, and the bully makes a sound Jun-ho has never heard from him before. Pain. Real, genuine pain. The prodigy drops to one knee, clutching his ribs, his face a mess of shock and rage. He tries to stand. Jun-ho doesn't let him. A second strike knocks the sword from Jang Hyun-woo's grip. A third sends him sprawling flat on his back, exactly where Jun-ho was 2 minutes ago. The hall goes dead silent. Jun-ho stands over his downed opponent, chest heaving, sword pointed at the bully's throat. His whole body trembles, not from fear this time, from something else entirely. The class stares. So-yeon's hands are pressed over her mouth. Kang Min-suk looks like he just watched a miracle happen live. Jang Hyun-woo yields. He says it through gritted teeth, voice shaking with humiliation, but he says it. Jun-ho lowers his sword. The moment the duel is officially over, the warmth in his pocket vanishes, replaced instantly by something cold and sharp and wrong. He fishes out the mirror. It's cracked. Not just one crack, a web of fractures spreading across the glass like frost on a winter window. And then it shatters. Pieces of silver-backed glass tumble through his fingers and scatter across the stone floor. Along with them comes a sensation he can't describe, like something is being pulled out of him. Not blood or breath, but something deeper, something essential. A strange energy drains from his chest into the broken shards at his feet. It lasts maybe 3 seconds. When it stops, Jun-ho feels hollowed out. Empty in a way that has nothing to do with exhaustion. The crowd is already buzzing with noise, questions, accusations, wild theories. But Jun-ho barely hears any of it. He crouches down and starts gathering the broken pieces with shaking hands. Jang Hyun-woo is being helped up by his friends. Bully's face is twisted with fury and confusion, and the dawning realization that his reputation just took a direct hit. He shoves past his crew and storms out of the hall without looking back. But the look he throws Jun-ho on the way out promises this isn't over. Not even close. Jun-ho pockets the mirror fragments. They're cold against his thigh, colder than glass has any right to be. So-yeon reaches him first. She's asking if he's okay. What happened? How did he move like that? He doesn't have answers. The warmth he felt during the fight is completely gone now. Whatever the mirror gave him, it took back when it broke. A hand lands on his shoulder, heavy and deliberate. Professor Eris stands behind him. Man is tall and gaunt, and always looks like he's carrying a secret that weighs more than he does. His eyes flick to Jun-ho's pocket, where the mirror fragments rest. He knows something. He tells Jun-ho to come with him. Now. The professor's office is small and cluttered with old books and older maps. He closes the door and doesn't bother with small talk. He asks Jun-ho where he found the mirror. Jun-ho tells him about the storage room. The professor's jaw tightens. He says he hoped he destroyed all of those artifacts years ago. Apparently, he missed one. Then he leans forward and his voice drops to something almost gentle. He warns Jun-ho that the mirror is dangerous. Not evil, exactly, but dangerous. It grants power, sure. Doubles your strength every time you take a hit, turns pain into fuel. But it only works until he is hit again. And after that one activation, it shatters. The cost of using it again is steep. Jun-ho asks what the cost is. Professor Eris doesn't answer directly. He just says the mirror feeds on something rare, something Jun-ho won't find easily. The boy presses harder. He needs to know. Because for 2 minutes in that training hall, he wasn't the weakest. For 2 minutes, he was someone who mattered. And he's not ready to let that go. The professor finally gives in. He explains that the only way to repair the mirror is by absorbing a rare energy source. An energy that only forms in one place. The aftermath of a battle he loses. Jun-ho goes still. Losing a fight isn't the problem. He's been losing fights his entire life. But the mirror only works if he takes hits. Real hits, kind that leave bruises and break bones and make you question why you ever thought you could be more than what you are. He has to go into a fight, get beaten down, lose, and then find the energy that lingers in the wreckage of his own defeat. That's the price. That's the catch. Professor Eris studies him carefully. He asks if Jun-ho still wants to repair it. The boy doesn't hesitate. He says yes. The professor nods slowly, like he expected that answer and doesn't like it one bit. He warns Jun-ho one last time. Mirrors like this have a way of consuming their owners. He's seen it happen before. He doesn't say who. His eyes say enough. Jun-ho leaves the office with his pocket full of broken glass and his head full of noise. The hallway is quiet now. Most students have gone back to their dorms or their training. But So-yeon is waiting for him outside. She doesn't ask questions, just falls into step beside him and walks in silence. Kang Min-suk catches up with them at the courtyard. The underdog's eyes are bright with something Jun-ho recognizes. Hope. He asks if that power is coming back. If Jun-ho can do it again. Jun-ho looks at the two people who've never once treated him like garbage. Then he looks at the shards in his palm. Cold silver catching the last light of the afternoon sun. He tells them yes, he's going to find that energy. He's going to repair the mirror. And he's going to prove that he's more than the weakest student. The decision settles into his bones, like a lock clicking shut. Somewhere in the academy, Jang Hyun-woo is nursing his wounded pride and already planning his revenge. Somewhere in the shadows, Professor Eris is watching and waiting, and remembering things he'd rather forget. And somewhere in Jun-ho's chest, a tiny ember of warmth still glows. Not the mirror's power, his own. Barely a flicker, but enough. The night after his decision settles over the academy like a held breath. Jun-ho lies awake in his dormitory bunk staring at the ceiling. His ribs still ache from the fight with Jang Hyun-woo. The mirror fragments sit in his pocket, cold against his thigh even through the fabric. He pulls them out and spreads them across his blanket. 6 pieces of silver-backed glass catching the moonlight from the window. They don't glow anymore. They don't do anything. They're just broken glass now, and the weight of that sits in his chest like a stone. He thinks about what Professor Eris told him. A rare energy source, found only in one place. Jun-ho's hand closes around the largest shard. The edge bites into his palm, but he doesn't let go. He's been losing his whole life. Every training session, every evaluation, every sneering comment from Jang Hyun-woo and his crew. Losing is familiar territory. Losing is the one thing he's genuinely good at. But losing on purpose? Walking into a fight knowing he's going to get wrecked just to scrape up some leftover energy from his own failure? That's different. That takes a kind of courage he's not sure he has. He stares at the shards until his eyes blur. Somewhere in the building, Jang Hyun-woo is plotting his revenge. Somewhere in the shadows, Professor Eris is carrying a secret that weighs more than Jun-ho can imagine. And right here, in this cramped dormitory room, the weakest student in the academy is holding a broken mirror and making a promise to himself. He's going to prove that he's more than the trash everyone thinks he is. Morning comes gray and cold. Jun-ho drags himself to the mess hall before the sun is fully up. His body still feels hollowed out from the mirror's activation, like something vital got drained out of him when the glass shattered. He grabs a tray and scans the room. Most of the tables are empty at this hour, but one table isn't. Kang Min-suk is already there, hunched over a bowl of something steaming, looking about as awake as a corpse. Jun-ho slides into the seat across from him. Min-suk looks up and his eyes go wide. He asks what happened to Jun-ho's hand. Jun-ho looks down, the shard cut deeper than he realized. There's dried blood crusted across his palm and smeared on his fingers. He tells Min-suk it's nothing. Min-suk doesn't buy it. He grabs Jun-ho's wrist and turns his hand over. The cut is shallow but ugly, a jagged line running from the base of his thumb to his wrist. Min-suk asks again what happened. Jun-ho pulls his hand back and wraps it in a napkin. He tells Min-suk about the mirror, about the energy source, about what he has to do to repair it. Min-suk listens without interrupting. When Jun-ho finishes, the underdog is quiet for a long moment. Then he asks where Jun-ho plans to find a battle he can lose. Jun-ho hasn't figured that part out yet. He knows he can't just walk up to Jang Hyun-woo and ask for a rematch. The bully would beat him into the ground, sure, but there's no guarantee the energy would form. And even if it did, Jang's crew would be watching. They'd never let him absorb it in peace. He needs a controlled environment, a fight he can walk into, lose, and walk out of with the energy in hand. Min-suk leans forward. His voice drops to something quiet and serious. He says he knows a place. Jun-ho stares at him. Min-suk explains that there's a dungeon portal near the eastern edge of the academy grounds. It's a low-level gate, the kind they use for first-year training exercises. Monsters inside are weak, mostly slimes and goblins. Nothing that could kill a student. But if Jun-ho goes in alone and lets the monsters swarm him, if he takes enough hits without fighting back, he could lose. Jun-ho's heart starts hammering. He asks if Min-suk is serious. Min-suk's expression doesn't waver. He says the dungeon is monitored, but the monitoring station is unmanned on weekends. If they go on Saturday, no one will know. Jun-ho turns the idea over in his head. A low-level dungeon full of weak monsters. Let them beat him down, absorb the energy, repair the mirror, walk out. It sounds simple. It sounds too simple, but it's the only plan he's got. He nods. He tells Min-suk they'll go on Saturday. Min-suk grins, that bright underdog grin that Jun-ho's come to recognize. Then he says he's coming too. Jun-ho shakes his head immediately. He's not dragging Min-suk into this. Min-suk crosses his arms and refuses to back down. He points out that someone needs to watch Jun-ho's back. Someone needs to make sure the monsters don't actually kill him. Someone needs to pull him out if things go wrong. Jun-ho opens his mouth to argue. Min-suk cuts him off. He says Jun-ho doesn't get to do this alone. That's not how friendship works. Jun-ho looks at the underdog sitting across from him, the kid who's never once treated him like garbage, the kid who looked at him with hope in his eyes after the duel, the kid who's offering to walk into a dungeon full of monsters just to watch his back. Jun-ho's throat tightens. He tells Min-suk okay, but he makes him promise to stay out of the fight. Min-suk promises. Neither of them knows how hollow that promise will turn out to be. Saturday arrives faster than Jun-ho expects. Week between is a blur of classes and training, and avoiding Jang Hyun-woo's glares from across the courtyard. So-yeon catches him in the hallway on Friday afternoon. She asks where he's been disappearing to. Jun-ho doesn't tell her about the dungeon. He doesn't want her to worry. He doesn't want her to try to stop him. She studies his face for a long moment. Then she tells him to be careful. She doesn't know what he's planning, but she knows him well enough to know he's planning something. Jun-ho promises he'll be careful. It's the second promise he makes that week, the second one he'll fail to keep. Saturday morning dawns cold and misty. Jun-ho meets Min-suk at the eastern edge of the academy grounds. The underdog is wearing a light training uniform and carrying a small pack slung over one shoulder. He's got water and bandages and a basic healing salve. Jun-ho's got nothing but the mirror fragments in his pocket and the hollow ache in his chest. They walk in silence until they reach the portal. It's a shimmering tear in the air, about 8 feet tall, pulsing with a faint blue light. The monitoring station nearby is dark and empty, just like Min-suk said. Jun-ho stands in front of the portal and feels his stomach drop. This is it, the point of no return. Min-suk claps him on the shoulder and tells him it's going to be fine. They're just slimes and goblins. Low-level trash. Nothing to be scared of. Jun-ho nods. Then he steps through the portal. The dungeon is cold and damp and smells like wet stone and old rot. The walls are rough-hewn rock, dripping with moisture, lit by faint blue crystals embedded in the ceiling. The floor is uneven and slick with something Jun-ho doesn't want to identify. Min-suk comes through a moment later, shivering and rubbing his arms. He mutters that he forgot how creepy this place is. Jun-ho draws a deep breath and starts walking. They don't have to go far. The monsters find them within minutes. A cluster of slimes oozes out of a side passage, their translucent bodies glistening in the blue light. They're small, about the size of basketballs, with tiny glowing cores floating in their centers. Level 1. The weakest of the weak. Jun-ho stops walking. He tells Min-suk to stay back. Then he spreads his arms wide and waits. The slimes pause. They don't seem to understand what they're looking at. A human standing there, arms open, not attacking, not defending, just waiting. The first slime lunges. It slams into Jun-ho's chest like a wet sandbag. The impact sends a dull shock through his already bruised ribs. He staggers back a step but stays on his feet. The mirror fragments in his pocket stay cold. No glow. No warmth. Nothing. A second slime hits him in the shoulder. A third in the leg. Jun-ho grits his teeth and keeps his arms spread. He tells himself this is working. This is exactly what he planned. Take the hits, lose the fight, absorb the energy. Simple. Except the mirror isn't activating. Slimes keep coming, pounding into him from every angle. His vision blurs. His legs start to shake. The bruises from his fight with Jang Hyun-woo scream with fresh agony. And still nothing. The mirror is dead. It's not going to activate because it's broken. It can't double his power because there's no power left to double. The realization hits him harder than any monster. He came here expecting the mirror to work. He came here expecting some kind of trigger, some kind of sign. Something that would tell him the energy was forming. But the mirror is shattered. It can't do anything until it's repaired. And it can't be repaired until he finds the energy. And he can't find the energy until he loses. But losing doesn't mean anything if the mirror isn't there to absorb it. He's trapped in a loop with no beginning and no end. He's an idiot, a complete and utter idiot. He tells Min-suk the plan isn't working. Min-suk shouts back, asking what he means. Jun-ho doesn't get a chance to answer. The slimes are getting more aggressive now, swarming him from all sides, their gelatinous bodies slamming into his head and chest and legs. He tries to back away, but his feet slip on the wet stone. He goes down hard. The slimes pile on top of him. Their weight is suffocating. Their cold, wet bodies press against his face, and he can't breathe, and everything is going dark at the edges. Through the chaos, he hears Min-suk scream his name. Then he hears something else. Something low and rumbling and very, very close. Slimes freeze. Every single one of them stops moving at exactly the same moment. Jun-ho sucks in a ragged breath and tries to see what's happening. The slimes are pulling back, oozing away from him like he's suddenly radioactive. They're retreating toward the walls, toward the shadows, toward anywhere that isn't here. And that's when Jun-ho sees it. A shape emerging from the darkness of a side passage. Not a slime, not a goblin. Something much, much worse. It's 8 feet tall and covered in jagged black scales that gleam like obsidian in the blue light. Its head is vaguely reptilian, with a long snout and rows of needle-sharp teeth. Its eyes burn with a dull red light. Its claws are the length of Jun-ho's forearm and look sharp enough to cut through steel. This isn't a level 1 monster. This isn't even close. This is a dungeon boss, something that should never ever be in a first-year training gate. Jun-ho's blood turns to ice. He scrambles backward, trying to get his feet under him, but his body isn't cooperating. The thing takes a step forward. The ground shakes. Min-seok is screaming something, but Jun-ho can't make out the words over the roaring in his ears. The monster opens its mouth and a sound comes out. Not a roar, a hiss. Low and rattling, and full of something that sounds almost like amusement. It's playing with them. It knows they can't hurt it. It knows they can't run. Jun-ho finally gets his feet under him and staggers upright. The mirror fragments are still cold in his pocket. Useless. Dead. He's got nothing. No power, no plan, no hope. The monster lunges. Jun-ho throws himself sideways, and the claws rake through the air where his head was a heartbeat ago. He hits the ground and rolls, stones digging into his back. The monster turns. Slow. Deliberate. Almost lazy. It raises one clawed hand for another strike, and Min-seok moves. Jun-ho sees it happen in slow motion. The underdog charges forward, screaming at the top of his lungs, waving his arms to draw the monster's attention. He's got no weapon, no power, no chance. He's just trying to buy Jun-ho time. The monster's head swivels toward the noise. Its red eyes fix on Min-seok. Its claw comes down. Not lazy anymore. Fast. Impossibly fast. The blow catches Min-seok across the chest and sends him flying. He hits the wall with a sound that Jun-ho will hear in his nightmares for the rest of his life. A wet, crunching impact that echoes through the dungeon like a gunshot. Min-seok crumples to the ground. He doesn't get up. Jun-ho screams. He doesn't remember deciding to move. 1 second he's on the ground, and the next he's running, sprinting toward the monster with his fists raised and nothing in his head but a white-hot fury that burns away every scrap of fear and pain and exhaustion. The monster swipes at him. He ducks under the claw and slams his fist into its scaled leg. The impact shudders up his arm and does absolutely nothing. The monster backhands him across the chamber. Jun-ho lands hard, skidding across the wet stone, his shoulders screaming with fresh agony. But he's already pushing himself up, already staggering back toward the monster, already refusing to stop. Because Min-seok is lying against the wall, and Min-seok isn't moving, and Min-seok took that hit for him, the monster watches him approach with something that looks almost like curiosity, like it's never seen prey act this way before. Raises its claw again. Jun-ho doesn't dodge this time. He plants his feet and stares up at the thing that's about to kill him, and he remembers what Professor Eris told him. The mirror feeds on something rare, something that only forms in the aftermath of a battle he loses. He's losing now. He's lost already. Min-seok is down and the mirror is broken, and the monster is about to finish him off. This is as lost as it gets. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out the mirror fragments. They're still cold, still dead. He squeezes them until the edges cut into his palm, and blood drips between his fingers. He doesn't feel the pain. He doesn't feel anything except the cold weight of failure pressing down on his chest. The monster's claw starts to descend, and Jun-ho makes a choice. Not a plan, not a strategy, just a choice. He's not going to let Min-seok die here. He's not going to let the mirror's power or its absence decide who he is. He's going to get his friend out of this dungeon, or he's going to die trying. He throws himself sideways at the last possible instant. The claw misses him by inches and gouges a trench in the stone floor. Jun-ho scrambles to his feet and sprints toward Min-seok. The underdog is crumpled against the wall, his training uniform shredded, his chest a mess of blood and torn fabric. His eyes are closed. His breathing is shallow, but he's breathing. He's still breathing. Jun-ho grabs Min-seok under the arms and starts dragging him toward the portal. The monster roars behind him, a sound of pure rage. It didn't expect its prey to run. It didn't expect to be denied. Jun-ho doesn't look back. He hauls Min-seok across the wet stone, his muscles screaming, his ribs grinding together with every step. The portal is 30 feet away. The monster's footsteps are getting closer. The ground shakes with every stride. Jun-ho can feel its breath on the back of his neck, hot and reeking of rot. 5 feet. He throws Min-seok through the portal and dives after him. The last thing he sees before the blue light swallows him is the monster's claw reaching for his face. Then the dungeon is gone, and he's lying on the grass outside the portal, and the sun is on his face, and Min-seok is bleeding out beside him. Jun-ho rolls onto his side and presses his hands against the wound on Min-seok's chest. Blood wells up between his fingers, hot and slick and terrifying. Min-seok's eyes flutter open. He looks at Jun-ho. He tries to say something. No sound comes out. Jun-ho tells him to shut up. He tells him to save his strength. He tells him he's going to be fine. Min-suk's eyes close again. Jun-ho screams for help. His voice rips out of his throat, raw and desperate, echoing across the empty training grounds. Nobody comes. The monitoring station is dark. The academy is too far away. He's alone. He's totally and completely alone. He looks down at Min-suk's pale face, and the blood soaking through his uniform, and the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Then he looks at his own hands, covered in his friend's blood. He looks at the mirror fragments scattered on the grass beside him. Cold. Dead. Useless. He left the rare energy source behind. He left it in the dungeon with the monster that nearly killed them both. Chose Min-suk over the mirror. It wasn't even a choice. It was instinct. But the weight of what he's lost crashes down on him anyway. He can't repair the mirror. He can't get stronger. And now, Min-suk is dying because he was stupid enough to believe he could have both. He wraps his arms under Min-suk's shoulders and starts dragging him toward the academy. Every step is agony. His ribs scream. His shoulder grinds. His legs threaten to buckle. He doesn't stop. He can't stop. He drags his friend across the grass and through the eastern gate and into the empty courtyard beyond. By the time he reaches the infirmary, his vision is swimming and his lungs are on fire. The nurse takes one look at them and starts shouting orders. Orderlies appear from nowhere. Min-suk is lifted onto a stretcher and wheeled away. Someone tries to guide Jun-ho to a bed. He shakes them off. He stands in the middle of the infirmary, covered in his friend's blood, and watches them work. A healer in white robes places her hands on Min-suk's chest. Light pulses beneath her palms. The bleeding slows. The wound begins to close. But it's slow. Horribly slow. The healer's face is tight with concentration. An hour passes. Jun-ho doesn't move. He stands there like a statue, watching the light pulse and fade and pulse again. Finally, the healer steps back. She's pale and trembling with exhaustion. She says Min-suk will live. Jun-ho's knees nearly buckle, but she's not finished. The damage was severe. His ribs were shattered. His lung was punctured. The healing magic closed the worst of it, but his body needs time to recover on its own. Time to rebuild the muscle and bone and tissue that the monster's claw tore apart. She says he'll be in the infirmary for at least a month. Maybe 2, maybe more. And even after that, he'll need physical therapy, rehabilitation, time to learn how to move again without pain. Jun-ho listens to every word, every single one. They land like stones in his chest. When the healer finishes, he asks if he can see him. She nods. Min-suk is in a private room at the end of the hall. The underdog is lying in a bed, his chest wrapped in bandages, his face pale but peaceful. He's unconscious but stable. He's alive. Jun-ho pulls a chair next to the bed and sits down. The mirror fragments are still in his pocket. He doesn't take them out. He doesn't want to look at them. He doesn't want to think about them. He just wants to sit here and watch his friend breathe. The door opens behind him. He doesn't turn around. A voice speaks. Professor Eris. He says he heard what happened. Jun-ho doesn't answer. The professor pulls up another chair and sits beside him. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then Eris says something that Jun-ho doesn't expect. He says he's proud of him. Jun-ho's head snaps up. He asks what there is to be proud of. He nearly got his friend killed. He walked into a dungeon with no plan, no power, and no backup. And the only reason Min-suk is alive is blind luck. Eris shakes his head. He says Jun-ho is wrong. He says Jun-ho made a choice in that dungeon. The right choice. The choice that mattered. He chose his friend over the mirror. He chose his humanity over power. That, the professor says quietly, is the difference between a man and a monster. Jun-ho stares at him. Then he looks back at Min-suk. The underdog's chest rises and falls beneath the bandages. Steady. Alive. Jun-ho's eyes burn with tears he refuses to let fall. He asks what he's supposed to do now. The mirror is still broken. The energy is still out there, somewhere in that dungeon, guarded by a monster he can't possibly defeat. And Min-suk is lying in a hospital bed because of him. Eris leans back in his chair. His eyes are distant, like he's looking at something very far away. He says true strength is not about how much power you accumulate. It's about what you're willing to protect, and what you're willing to sacrifice to protect it. Jun-ho turns the words over in his head. He thinks about the mirror, about the power it offered, about the 2 minutes in that training hall when he wasn't the weakest. He wanted that feeling back more than he's ever wanted anything. But when the choice came, he didn't choose the power. He chose Min-suk. He didn't even hesitate. The realization settles into his chest like something heavy and warm and unfamiliar. He's still the weakest student in the academy. He's still got no mirror and no power and no plan. But for the first time since he found that piece of glass in the storage room, he understands something important. The mirror isn't what made him strong. The mirror just let him borrow strength he hadn't earned. Real strength is sitting in a hospital room, watching your friend breathe. Real strength is choosing to fail so someone else can succeed. Real strength is accepting that sometimes you lose, and losing doesn't make you worthless. He looks at the professor and asks what happens next. Eris meets his eyes. He says that's up to Jun-ho. He can keep chasing the mirror's power. He can keep trying to repair it, even though the cost nearly killed his friend. Or he can find a different path, a harder path, a path that doesn't rely on shortcuts and broken artifacts. Jun-ho looks at the shards in his pocket. Then he looks at Min-seok, still covered in dried blood, the blood of a friend who almost died for him. He doesn't have an answer yet, but for now, he's not going anywhere. He's going to sit right here until Min-seok wakes up, and after that, he's going to figure out how to become strong. Really strong. The kind of strong that doesn't shatter when you need it most. The professor's words hang in the air like smoke. Jun-ho doesn't answer right away. He just sits there watching Min-seok's chest rise and fall beneath those bandages. The beeping of the medical monitor is the only sound in the room for a long moment. Then Eris stands up. He says Jun-ho should take the time he needs. But when he's ready, the academy won't wait forever. The door clicks shut behind him. Jun-ho stays in that chair for another hour. Then the nurse comes in and tells him visiting hours are over. He doesn't argue. He squeezes Min-seok's hand once and walks out into the cold night air. The campus is quiet. Most students are in their dorms by now. Jun-ho walks past the training hall without looking at it. His ribs still ache from the fight with Hyun-woo. His hand is wrapped in a bandage where the mirror shard cut him, and his pocket is full of cold, dead glass. He stops at the courtyard fountain and sits on the stone edge. The water ripples under the moonlight. He pulls out the fragments, 6 pieces of silver-backed glass. No glow, no warmth, no power. Just broken bits of an artifact that nearly got his best friend killed. His reflection stares back at him from a dozen jagged angles. He looks tired. He looks hollow. He looks like a kid who chased a shortcut and crashed straight into a wall. The next morning, Seo Jun finds him in the library. She doesn't ask where he's been. She just sits down across from him with 2 cups of coffee and slides one over. He takes it. The steam curls up between them. She says Min-seok is awake. Jun-ho's head snaps up. She nods and says the healers checked him this morning. He's groggy and weak, but he's conscious. And the first thing he asked was whether Jun-ho was okay. Jun-ho stares at her. Then he laughs. It's not a happy laugh. It's the laugh of a guy who doesn't deserve the friends he has. He asks what she told him. Seo Jun says she told him the truth. That Jun-ho carried him out of that dungeon on his own back. That he sat by his bed for hours. That he hasn't slept. Jun-ho rubs his face with both hands. He says Min-seok almost died because of him. Seo Jun leans forward. Her eyes are sharp. She says Min-seok walked into that dungeon because he believes in him. Not because Jun-ho forced him. Not because Jun-ho tricked him. Because he wanted to help his friend. And that's not something Jun-ho gets to feel guilty about. She says guilt is cheap. Guilt is easy. What's hard is making sure it was worth it. Jun-ho looks at her for a long moment. Then he nods. He finishes his coffee in one long swallow and stands up. He asks if she'll come with him to the infirmary. She smiles and says she was already heading there. Min-seok is sitting up in bed when they walk in. He's pale, and his chest is wrapped in enough bandages to mummify a small horse. But he grins when he sees them. The idiot actually grins. He asks if Jun-ho brought snacks. Then he laughs again. This time it's real. He says Min-seok nearly got eaten by a dungeon boss, and he's worried about snacks. Min-seok shrugs and says hospital food is terrible. Seo Jun pulls out a bag of chips from her jacket and tosses it onto the bed. Min-seok's eyes light up like she just handed him gold. He rips the bag open and starts eating. Between bites, he asks what happened after he blacked out. Jun-ho tells him. The whole thing. The boss looming over him. The mirror staying cold. The desperate scramble to drag Min-seok's body out of the cave. The healer saying he might not make it. Min-seok listens without interrupting. When Jun-ho finishes, the room is quiet. Then Min-seok says, "That was really stupid." Jun-ho blinks. Min-seok says next time they're going into a dungeon, they're bringing a plan. A real plan. Not just walking in and hoping the mirror bails them out. Jun-ho says there might not be a next time. Min-suk asks why not. Jun-ho pulls the fragments out of his pocket. 6 pieces of broken glass. He says the mirror is dead. Without it, he's back to being the weakest student in the academy. Min-suk looks at the shards. Then he looks at Jun-ho. He says that's bull. Jun-ho frowns. Min-suk says Jun-ho carried a full-grown man out of a dungeon on his own back. Without the mirror. Without any power-up. Without a cheat. That wasn't the mirror. That was him. Seo Jun nods. She says Min-suk's right. The mirror didn't make Jun-ho strong. It just let him borrow strength he hadn't earned. But the guy who sat by his friend's bed for hours, the guy who refused to leave, even when the healers told him to go, that guy is strong. Mirror or no mirror. Jun-ho looks down at the fragments. His hand tightens around them. The edges press into his palm through the bandage. He says he still wants to repair it. Not because he needs it, because it's his. It chose him, and he's not going to let it stay broken. Min-suk grins through a mouthful of chips. He says that's the Jun-ho he knows. Seo Jun smiles and leans back in her chair. She says if he's going to fix it, he'll need a plan. And she's not letting him walk into another dungeon without backup. Jun-ho looks at both of them. His throat tightens. He says thank you. Min-suk waves a chip at him and says, don't get sappy. Just promise to bring better snacks next time. The next few days are quiet. Jun-ho visits Min-suk every afternoon. The healers say his recovery is going well. Faster than expected. He might be out of the infirmary in 3 weeks instead of 4. Jun-ho spends his mornings in the library. He's not looking for books about mirrors. He's looking for books about tactics. Strategy. How to fight when you're weaker than your opponent. How to win when you can't rely on power. He fills a notebook with diagrams and notes. He studies formations and feints and counterattacks. He reads about fighters who won battles through intelligence instead of strength. And he trains. Every evening, he goes to the training hall. Not to spar. He's not ready for that yet. But he runs drills. Footwork exercises. Basic strikes against a wooden dummy. His ribs still ache. His hand still stings. But he doesn't stop. He pushes through the pain. He pushes through the exhaustion. He pushes through the voice in his head that tells him he's wasting his time. Because every time that voice speaks, he remembers Min-suk's body hitting the cave floor. He remembers the healer's pale face. He remembers the weight of his friend on his back. And he keeps going. A week after the dungeon incident, the academy holds its monthly assembly. All students gather in the main hall. The director stands at the podium and drones on about duty and discipline and the honor of the academy. Jun-ho isn't really listening. He's standing near the back with Seo Jun. His mind is still on the footwork drills he's planning to run later. Then the director calls his name. Jun-ho freezes. Every head in the hall turns toward him. The director says Seo Jun-ho is to report to the front. Seo Jun whispers that this can't be good. Jun-ho walks forward. The crowd parts around him. Their stares are heavy. Some curious. Some hostile. Some just bored. He reaches the podium and faces the director. The old man looks down at him with unreadable eyes. He says a formal challenge has been issued. By Ryu Ji-hoon. The name ripples through the hall like a stone dropped in water. Ryu Ji-hoon is not Jang Hyun-woo. Hyun-woo is a bully. A thug with a superiority complex. Ji-hoon is something else entirely. He's a genius. Top of the class in tactical analysis. Top of the class in magical theory. Undefeated in every strategic simulation the academy has ever run. He doesn't fight with brute force. He fights with his brain. And he just challenged the weakest student in the academy to a duel. The director asks if Jun-ho accepts. Jun-ho looks out at the crowd. He sees Hyun-woo in the front row, grinning like a shark. He sees Seo Jun near the back, her face pale with worry. He sees Ji-hoon himself, standing against the far wall with his arms crossed. His expression is calm, almost bored, like he's already won. Jun-ho turns back to the director. He says he accepts. The hall erupts in whispers. Seo Jun's face goes from worried to flat-out terrified. The director nods and says the duel will take place in 3 days. Standard rules are suspended. No restrictions. No time limit. The duel ends when one fighter yields or is unable to continue. Jun-ho catches Ji-hoon's eye across the hall. The genius raises one eyebrow. Just slightly. A flicker of interest. Then he turns and walks out. Hyun-woo shoulder checks Jun-ho on his way past. He says Jun-ho got lucky once. He won't get lucky twice. And even if he somehow beats Ji-hoon, Hyun-woo will be waiting. Jun-ho doesn't answer. He just watches the bully walk away. His hand is clenched so tight, his knuckles are white. Seo Jun grabs his arm and pulls him aside. She asks if he's insane. Ryu Ji-hoon is not Hyun-woo. He doesn't fight fair. He doesn't fight with honor. He fights to win, and he'll use every trick in the book to do it. And Jun-ho doesn't even have the mirror. Jun-ho says he knows. Seo-yun stares at him. She asks why he accepted. Jun-ho looks at her. His eyes are steady. He says he's tired of being the weakest. He's tired of being everyone's punching bag. He's tired of hiding behind a piece of glass that shatters the moment he needs it most. If he's going to become strong, he has to start somewhere. And maybe getting his ribs broken by a genius is exactly the kind of start he needs. So-yeon closes her eyes. She takes a deep breath. Then she opens them and says she's going to help him prepare. Jun-ho blinks. He asks if she's serious. She says if he's going to be an idiot, she's going to make sure he's a prepared idiot. She grabs his wrist and drags him toward the library. They spend the next 3 days buried in research. Every duel Ji-hoon has ever fought. Every simulation he's ever run. Every strategy he's ever used. Seo-yeon pulls records from the Academy archives. Jun-ho studies them until his eyes burn. Patterns start to emerge. Ji-hoon always opens with misdirection. He feints left, strikes right. He sets traps within traps. He makes his opponent think they've figured him out. And then he springs the real attack. He's never lost because no one's ever seen the second trap coming. Jun-ho closes the last file and leans back in his chair. He says he knows how to beat him. So-yeon asks how. Jun-ho smiles. It's not a nice smile. He says Ji-hoon expects everyone to fall for his tricks, so Jun-ho will fall for them. On purpose. So-yeon stares at him. She says that's either genius or the stupidest plan she's ever heard. Jun-ho says it's probably both. The day of the duel arrives. The arena is packed. More students showed up for this than for the Hyun-woo fight. Word spread fast. The weakest student is taking on the tactical genius. Everyone wants to see him get destroyed. Jun-ho stands at one end of the arena. His ribs are mostly healed. His hand is still bandaged. He's got no mirror, no power-up, no cheat. Just a wooden practice sword and a head full of plans. Ji-hoon stands at the other end. He's holding a thin rapier. Light, fast, perfect for precise strikes and quick retreats. The proctor raises his hand. The crowd goes silent. He drops it. The duel begins. Ji-hoon doesn't move. He just stands there, watching Jun-ho with those calm, calculating eyes. Jun-ho takes a step forward, then another. He's moving slowly, keeping his guard up. Something shifts under his foot. A pressure plate. He realizes what's happening half a second before the ground beneath him explodes. He throws himself sideways. The blast still catches him, sending him tumbling across the dirt. The crowd gasps. Ji-hoon set traps in the arena before the duel even started. That's his style. That's his reputation. And Jun-ho just walked right into the first one. He pushes himself up. His shoulder is burning. His ears are ringing. But he's smiling, because this is exactly what he expected. Ji-hoon tilts his head. Faintest flicker of curiosity crosses his face. He says most opponents are panicking by now. Jun-ho doesn't answer. He just keeps his guard up and keeps moving. Slow. Careful. Watching the ground. Watching the walls. Watching everything. So-yeon is in the stands, gripping the railing so hard her knuckles are white. Next to her is a wheelchair. Min-suk insisted on coming. The healers said no. He came anyway. He yells for Jun-ho to kick the smug look off Ji-hoon's face. Jun-ho doesn't look up, but he hears him, and it helps. Ji-hoon moves. He's fast. Not Hyun-woo fast. Smarter fast. He doesn't charge in swinging. He darts to the side, forcing Jun-ho to turn and expose his flank. Then he throws something, a small glass sphere. It shatters at Jun-ho's feet and releases a cloud of thick black smoke. Jun-ho can't see, can't breathe, can't tell which direction the next attack is coming from. So he closes his eyes. He listens. Footsteps, fast and light, coming from the left. He pivots and swings. His practice sword hits nothing but smoke. Ji-hoon's voice comes from behind him. He says, "Good instincts." Wrong direction. The rapier slashes across Jun-ho's back. Not deep, not fatal, but it hurts. Jun-ho stumbles forward and barely catches himself before he hits the ground. The smoke clears. Ji-hoon is standing 10 feet away, completely untouched. His expression hasn't changed. He says Jun-ho is predictable. He says it's disappointing. He expected more from the guy who beat Hyun-woo. Jun-ho pushes himself up. His back is bleeding. His shoulder is throbbing. His lungs are burning. But he's still smiling. He says Ji-hoon talks too much. The genius's eye twitches. Just barely. Jun-ho saw it. And that's all he needed. He knows Ji-hoon's weakness now. It's not his tactics, it's his ego. He can't stand being underestimated. He can't stand the idea that someone like Jun-ho, someone weak, someone beneath him, might not be afraid. So Jun-ho stops being careful. He charges straight at Ji-hoon. The genius's eyes widen. This isn't the plan. This isn't the pattern. This is reckless and stupid and completely unexpected. Ji-hoon throws another glass sphere. Jun-ho doesn't dodge. He runs straight through it. The sphere shatters against his chest and releases a burst of electricity. His muscles seize. His teeth clench. But he keeps moving. The mirror fragments in his pocket are still cold, still dead. This is all him. The pain, the momentum, the refusal to stop. He swings his practice sword with everything he's got. Ji-hoon blocks. Jun-ho swings again. And again. No technique. No strategy. Just raw, desperate force. Ji-hoon is faster. Ji-hoon is smarter. But Ji-hoon isn't used to opponents who don't care about getting hurt. He retreats. 1 step, 2 steps. His foot lands on something. A pressure plate. His own trap. He realizes what's happening a second too late. The ground explodes beneath him. Ji-hoon is thrown across the arena. He hits the ground hard and rolls. His rapier skitters out of his hand. He pushes himself up onto his elbows. His clothes are torn. His face is bleeding. His calm expression is finally gone. Jun-ho walks toward him. His sword is raised. His body is screaming. But he's still standing. He asks if Ji-hoon yields. The genius stares up at him. For a long moment, no one breathes. Then Ji-hoon laughs. It's not a mocking laugh. It's surprised. Genuinely surprised. He says no one's ever turned his own trap against him before. He says Jun-ho is more interesting than he expected. Then he says he yields. Crowd erupts. So-yeon screams. Min-suk nearly falls out of his wheelchair cheering. Jun-ho lowers his sword. His legs give out. He drops to his knees in the dirt, gasping for breath. His back is bleeding. His shoulder is wrecked. His whole body feels like it's been through a meat grinder. But he won. Not because he was stronger. Not because he was faster. Because he was willing to walk through the pain when Ji-hoon wasn't. The proctor raises Jun-ho's hand and declares him the winner. The crowd is still roaring. Hyun-woo is in the stands, his face twisted with fury. This was supposed to be Jun-ho's humiliation. Instead, it's his second victory. Ji-hoon walks over. He's limping. His face is a mess. But his eyes are clear and sharp. He says he owes Jun-ho an explanation. Jun-ho looks up at him, too exhausted to ask what he means. Ji-hoon says the challenge wasn't his idea. Someone pushed him into it. Someone who wanted to see what Jun-ho was capable of. Jun-ho's blood runs cold. He asks who. Ji-hoon looks him dead in the eye. He says it was a professor named Eris. Eris. The name hangs in the air like a grenade with the pin already pulled. Jun-ho stares at Ji-hoon, waiting for the punchline. There isn't one. Ji-hoon's face is serious, dead serious. The kind of serious that makes Jun-ho's stomach drop straight through the arena floor. He asks Ji-hoon to repeat what he just said. Ji-hoon says Professor Eris came to him 2 days before the duel. He told Ji-hoon exactly how to challenge Jun-ho, what buttons to push, what traps would work best. He even gave Ji-hoon the glass spheres. Jun-ho's blood goes cold. Professor Eris. The man who pulled him aside after the Hyun-woo fight. The one who warned him about the mirror. The one who told him to be careful. The one Jun-ho trusted. Ji-hoon says Eris wanted to see Jun-ho fight without the mirror. He wanted to see if Jun-ho could win through pain alone. He says Eris called it a test. Jun-ho's hands start shaking, not from exhaustion, from rage. He asks Ji-hoon why he's telling him this now. Ji-hoon looks away. For the first time since they met, the genius looks ashamed. He says he didn't know what Eris really wanted. He thought it was just a favor for a professor, a way to get ahead. But during the fight, when Jun-ho ran straight through the electric trap, Ji-hoon saw something. He saw a man who was willing to die to win, a man who had nothing left to lose. And Ji-hoon realized Eris knew that would happen. He was counting on it. Jun-ho's jaw clenches. He asks what Eris really wants. Ji-hoon meets his eyes. His voice drops to barely a whisper. He says Eris has been studying the mirror for years. Decades, maybe. He's obsessed with it. He says Eris had a mirror just like Jun-ho's, a long time ago. And it destroyed him. The weight of those words hits Jun-ho harder than any blow he took in the arena. His mirror isn't unique. There's another one. Or there was. And the man who owned it is now pulling strings from the shadows, watching Jun-ho bleed for his own curiosity. So-yeon runs onto the arena floor. Her face is pale. She says they need to get Jun-ho to the infirmary right now. Jun-ho barely hears her. His mind is spinning. Every conversation with Eris replays in his head. The warnings, the careful questions, the way Eris always seemed to know too much. It wasn't concern, it was research. Min-suk wheels himself over. His bandages are still fresh. His face is twisted with anger. He says they should go to the director right now. Report Eris. Get him thrown out. Ji-hoon shakes his head. He says it won't work. Eris has been at the academy for 15 years. He's respected. He's powerful. And he's never broken a single rule. Everything he did through other people. Jae-hoon. Probably Hyun-woo too. There's no proof. Just the word of a student who just lost a duel. Jun-ho forces himself to stand. His legs are screaming. His back is still bleeding. But he's not going to the infirmary. He says he's going to talk to Eris. Right now. So-yeon grabs his arm. She says he's in no condition to confront anyone. Jun-ho looks at his eyes are hard. Not angry at her, just resolved. He says Eris has been waiting for this. The duel. The result. The aftermath. He's probably watching right now, and Jun-ho is done being a piece on someone else's board. He pulls away from Seo-yeon and limps toward the arena exit. Min-suk yells after him. He says if Jun-ho is going, he's going too. Jun-ho doesn't turn around. He says Min-suk needs to stay with So-yeon. Keep her safe, because whatever Eris wants, it's about the mirror, which means it's about Jun-ho. Anyone close to him is a target. The walk across the academy grounds is the longest of Jun-ho's life. Students stare. Whispers follow every step. They just watched him beat the undefeated genius. Now they're watching him limp toward the faculty wing, covered in blood and fury. No one tries to stop him. Professor Eris's office is at the end of a long hallway. Old stone walls. Dusty sconces. The kind of place that feels forgotten on purpose. The door is open. Eris is sitting behind his desk. His hands are folded. His expression is calm, expectant. He says he was wondering how long it would take Jun-ho to come. Jun-ho steps inside. He doesn't sit down. He asks Eris if what Ji-hoon said is true. Eris doesn't blink. He says yes. All of it. Jun-ho's fists clench. The man who mentored him. The man who warned him about the mirror's danger. The man who told him to be careful. All of it was a lie. Eris stands up and walks to the window. His back is to Jun-ho. He says he had a mirror once, just like Jun-ho's. It was 30 years ago. He was a student at this academy. He was weak, just like Jun-ho. Desperate, overlooked. The mirror found him. Or he found it. After all this time, he's not sure anymore. He used it to climb to the top. Every fight, he took the hits. Every hit, he doubled his strength. He became the strongest student in the academy's history. And then the mirror broke. Jun-ho listens. His heart is pounding. Eris says he spent years trying to repair it. He searched every dungeon. He read every forbidden text. And eventually, he found the energy source. The rare energy that forms in the aftermath of a battle you lose. But there was a catch. There's always a catch. The energy doesn't form in your loss. It forms in the loss of someone you care about. Eris's voice goes cold. He says he sacrificed his best friend to fix his mirror. And when it was repaired, the mirror didn't just double his power anymore. It doubled his ambition, his obsession, his hunger. He became something else. Something not quite human. Jun-ho feels sick. Eris turns around. His eyes are different now. Darker. Hungrier. He says he's been watching Jun-ho ever since the Hyun-woo fight. He saw the mirror activate. He saw it break. And he knew right then that Jun-ho would do what he did. Sacrifice someone he loved to get it back. That's why he pushed Ji-hoon. That's why he pushed Hyun-woo. He wanted to see if Jun-ho would break. If Jun-ho would become just like him. And now he has his answer. Jun-ho didn't use the mirror to beat Jae-hoon. He used his own pain, his own stubbornness, his own refusal to quit. Eris says that makes Jun-ho different, stronger than he was, more interesting. And that's why Eris can't let him live. The office door slams shut. A barrier seals the room, magic, thick, and suffocating. Eris's body starts to change. His skin cracks like old porcelain. Beneath it, something dark pulses. Something alive. He says the mirror took everything from him. His friends, his humanity, his soul. But it gave him power in return. Power that has been waiting 30 years to be unleashed. Eris lunges. Jun-ho throws himself to the side. The desk explodes behind him. Splinters and stones spray across the room. His body is already broken. His back is bleeding. His shoulder is wrecked. His ribs are screaming. And the mirror is still in pieces in his pocket. Cold. Dead. This fight, like the last one, is all him. Eris swings again. His arm is longer now. Wrong. Bent at an angle that shouldn't exist. Jun-ho ducks. Barely. He grabs a fallen chair and swings it with everything he's got. It shatters against Eris's chest. Eris doesn't even flinch. He says physical attacks won't work, not against what he's become. Jun-ho dodges another strike. His foot slips on debris. He crashes to the ground. Eris looms over him. His face is warped. The man is gone. Only the hunger remains. He says he doesn't want to kill Jun-ho. He wants to break him. He wants to watch Jun-ho use the mirror. He wants to see Jun-ho sacrifice Min-suk. Or Seo Yun. Or both. Because if Jun-ho falls, if Jun-ho becomes what Eris is, then Eris won't be alone anymore. Jun-ho stares up at him. His body is done. There's nothing left. But his eyes are still burning. He says Eris is pathetic. Not strong, not powerful, just pathetic. 30 years and Eris is still just the weak kid who couldn't accept his limit. The weak kid who killed his friend because he was too scared to lose. Eris's face twists with rage. He raises his hand. Dark energy coils around his fingers. Enough power to level the entire wing. He says Jun-ho will die with that arrogance in his throat. And then the door explodes. Not the barrier, the actual door. Stone, wood, and magic all blown inward at once. Seo Yun is standing in the doorway. Her hands are glowing. Her eyes are fierce. Behind her is Min-suk, still in his wheelchair, still covered in bandages, holding a small metal object in his lap. A pressure plate. The same kind Ji-hoon used in the arena. He says they brought some of the genius's leftovers. And he triggers it. The explosion isn't big. It's not meant to hurt Eris. It's meant to distract him. And it works. Eris turns. Just for a second, just long enough. Jun-ho moves. Not with strength. He doesn't have any left. Not with speed. His body is too broken. He moves with the one thing Eris has forgotten exists. Trust. Seo Yun throws something at him. A small glass vial. He catches it. Healing potion. She must have grabbed it from the infirmary on her way. Jun-ho slams it against his own chest. The liquid burns as it seeps into his wounds. It's not enough to fix him. Not even close. But it's enough to keep him standing for another 30 seconds. That's all he needs. He says Seo Yun's name. Just that. Just her name. She knows what he means. They've known each other since they were 6 years old. They don't need a plan. They just need each other. He blasts a gust of wind at Eris. Low and wide. Not to hurt him. To blind him. Min-suk throws another pressure plate. It clatters across the floor and sticks to Eris's leg. The explosion tears through the dark energy coiling around him. Eris stumbles. For the first time, he looks surprised. Jun-ho charges. He doesn't swing a weapon. He doesn't have one. He just slams his whole body into Eris, driving him against the cracked window. The glass shatters. Cold night air floods the room. Eris grabs Jun-ho by the throat. His grip is impossibly strong. He says Jun-ho still doesn't understand. This isn't a fight he can win with friends and courage. The mirror demands sacrifice. The mirror always wins. Jun-ho chokes. His vision is tunneling, but his hand is moving, reaching into his pocket. He pulls out the mirror fragments, 6 pieces of silver-backed glass. Cold, dead, broken. He holds them up for Eris to see. He says Eris is right. The mirror takes everything. It took Eris's friend. It almost took Jun-ho. It almost made him into something he's not. But Jun-ho isn't Eris. He isn't going to sacrifice anyone, and he isn't going to use the mirror. He opens his hand. The fragments fall. They scatter across the floor, glinting in the moonlight streaming through the broken window. Eris screams, a raw, hollow sound that tears out of his chest. He lunges for the fragments. Desperate, obsessed, forgetting everything else. And Jun-ho steps back. He says Eris can have them, because Jun-ho doesn't need the mirror anymore. He never did. The dark energy around Eris flickers, cracks, starts to collapse inward. Eris looks down at his own hands. The darkness is receding. The hunger is fading. For the first time in 30 years, he looks human. He looks terrified. He asks what's happening. Jun-ho says Eris built his entire identity around the mirror. The power. The obsession. The guilt. Without it, there's nothing left. No hunger driving him. No darkness fueling him. Just a broken old man who killed his best friend and wasted 30 years chasing something that was never worth it. Eris falls to his knees. The barrier around the room dissolves. So-yeon rushes to Jun-ho's side. She catches him before he collapses. Min-seok wheels himself closer. He looks down at Eris with something between pity and disgust. He says some people spend their whole lives becoming the villain. And the worst part is, they usually know exactly when it started. Eris doesn't answer. He just stares at the mirror fragments on the floor. They're still broken, still cold, still dead. But for the first time, Jun-ho looks at them and feels nothing. No longing, no desperation, no hunger, just relief. He says Eris was wrong about the mirror. It doesn't demand sacrifice. It just reflects what's already inside you. Eris wanted power, so the mirror gave him power. Endless, consuming, never enough power. Jun-ho wanted to protect people, so the mirror gave him strength. Just enough to save his friends. Just enough to prove he was never weak to begin with. Eris looks up at him. His eyes are wet. He says he's sorry. Jun-ho nods. He says he knows. And then he turns away. So-yeon helps him limp toward the ruined doorway. Min-seok follows, his wheelchair crunching over debris. Behind them, Eris stays on his knees. Still staring at the mirror fragments, still trapped in the past, but no longer a threat. Outside, the night air is cold and clean. Students are gathered in the courtyard, staring up at the broken window. Word travels fast in the academy. Jun-ho doesn't look at them. He doesn't care what they think. He's done proving himself. The mirror is shattered. Eris is broken. The conspiracy is over. But something is still gnawing at the back of Jun-ho's mind. Eris said he found the energy source. The rare energy that can repair the mirror. He said it forms in the aftermath of a battle you lose. But not your loss. The loss of someone you care about. And Jun-ho can't stop thinking about that. Because Min-seok almost died in that dungeon. And the mirror didn't react. Didn't absorb anything. Didn't even flicker. Which means either Eris was wrong about the energy, or Min-seok's loss wasn't the right kind. Or there's something else going on entirely. Something Jun-ho hasn't figured out yet. He looks at Seo-yeon. She's walking beside him, her arm around his waist, holding him upright. Her face is streaked with dust and tears and determination. He looks at Min-seok. Still bandaged, still broken, still here. These are the people he almost lost, the people he almost sacrificed. And he knows, with a certainty that settles deep in his bones, that repairing the mirror is no longer the point. The point is figuring out why Eris wanted him to have it in the first place. Because Eris wasn't just testing Jun-ho, he was preparing him, pushing him, shaping him into something specific. And Jun-ho isn't sure the shaping is done. He stops walking. So-yeon asks what's wrong. Jun-ho doesn't answer right away. He's staring at the academy gates, at the darkness beyond them. Somewhere out there is the system. The thing that gave Eris his mirror 30 years ago. The thing that gave Jun-ho his mirror 3 weeks ago. The thing that has been watching all along. And Jun-ho has a terrible feeling that his real test hasn't even started. The terrible feeling doesn't stay terrible for long. It solidifies into certainty while Jun-ho is still staring at the gates. The night air changes. Pressure drops. The stars overhead seem to dim, one by one, like candles being snuffed out by an invisible hand. Seo-yeon feels it too. Her arm tightens around his waist. Min-seok's wheelchair creaks as he shifts his weight. And then the system speaks. Not in words, not in any language Jun-ho recognizes. It speaks in pure meaning, injected directly into his consciousness, like a blade sliding between vertebrae. You have rejected the mirror. You have rejected the path. You will now face the trial. The courtyard dissolves. Reality peels away in strips, like burning photographs. The academy, the students, the dawn sky, all of it just ceases to exist. One moment Jun-ho is standing on cracked flagstones. The next, he's somewhere else entirely. A white void. Infinite in every direction. No floor, no ceiling, no walls. Just blankness that hurts to look at. He's alone. Seo-yeon's arm is gone. Min-seok's presence is gone. The warmth of their bodies, the sound of their breathing. Everything stripped away until only Jun-ho remains, suspended in nothing. But he can feel them. Distantly. Like a heartbeat through a thick wall. The system didn't kill them. It just removed them. Isolated him. Because that's how the trial works. The first bearer wrote about this. Jun-ho knows because the words are appearing in front of him now, burning themselves into the white void like brands. The trial tests the bearer. The trial breaks the bearer. No bearer has ever survived. He waits, bleeding, broken. 3 fresh wounds from Hyun-woo's blade, still leaking red down his arm and ribs and back. his shoulders screaming, his hand a mess of split flesh where he caught the sword. The system doesn't attack him. It doesn't need to. It just shows him something. The void ripples. Images form in the white. Memories. His memories, but twisted. Replayed with surgical precision. His parents. The dungeon. Their faces as the gate collapsed. The exact moment he realized they weren't coming back. But the system doesn't just show it. It amplifies it. The guilt hits him like a physical blow. 10 times stronger than he's ever felt it. 100 times. He falls to his knees. The void doesn't care. More images. Min-suk in the dungeon. The monster's claws tearing through his spine. The wheelchair. The permanent damage. And the system whispers, "You could have stopped it. You were right there. You hesitated." No. He didn't hesitate. He knows he didn't. But the guilt says otherwise. The guilt has always said otherwise. It's been whispering in the back of his mind since he was a child. And now the system is taking that whisper and turning it into a scream. He doubles over, hands pressed against his head. The mirror mage power activates. One hit. His power doubles. The guilt is a hit. The system's assault is a hit. Every memory it weaponizes is a hit. And Jun-ho's power doesn't differentiate between physical and emotional damage. It just responds. He feels it building. The familiar surge, the strength flowing into his limbs, erasing exhaustion, knitting nothing but pouring raw power into his veins. But the system isn't done. Shows him Seo Jun. Her face when he collapsed in the courtyard. The fear in her eyes. The tears. And the system says, "She'll die because of you. Everyone who gets close to you dies. Your parents. Min-suk's future. Seo Jun. You're a curse. You've always been a curse." Another hit. His power doubles again. And again. He's screaming now. He can't help it. The guilt is impossibly heavy, pressing down on him like a mountain. Every failure, every mistake, every moment of weakness. The system has cataloged them all. 30 years of Eris's research fed into the trial's logic. It knows exactly where to cut. But something is happening. Even through the pain, Jun-ho feels it. His power isn't just doubling anymore. It's compounding beyond anything he's ever experienced. The system is giving him exactly what his ability requires. Hit after hit after hit. Each one genuine, each one devastating, each one triggering the doubling effect. And there's no upper limit. System, in its perfect logic, has made a mistake. It's trying to break him with pain. But his power feeds on pain. It was designed to feed on pain. Every blow the system lands makes him stronger. He just has to survive long enough for the math to work. Jun-ho pushes himself upright. His eyes are streaming. His throat is raw. Every nerve in his body is firing agony signals. But he stands. The system pauses. The image stream falters. This is not the expected response. Bearers are supposed to break. They're supposed to shatter. That's what the trial does. That's what it's always done. Jun-ho speaks through gritted teeth. He says the mirror isn't evil. The mirror isn't hungry. The mirror is just a reflection. And what it reflects is the user. Eris saw himself as a monster, so the mirror showed him a monster, fed him what he believed he deserved. But Jun-ho sees himself differently. Not as powerful. Not as special. Just as someone who refuses to let his friends down. The system shows him another image. Seo Jun dying. Blood pooling under her body. Her eyes going glassy. Hit. Power doubles. Jun-ho doesn't flinch. He says the system is afraid. Not of his power. Not of his potential. It's afraid of his answer. Because the mirror asked him a question 3 weeks ago when it first activated. When he was lying in the mud, beaten half to death by Hyun-woo with no hope and no future. It asked him what he was willing to give up. And his answer was nothing. Not out of greed. Not out of hunger. But because the people he loved were not bargaining chips. He wouldn't sacrifice them. He wouldn't sacrifice himself. He would find another way. That answer broke the system's logic. The system has rules. It has parameters. It can simulate anything except someone who refuses to play by its terms. The void shudders. Jun-ho's power has doubled 23 times now. More than he's ever taken in a single fight. More than Eris ever accumulated in 30 years of hunting the mirror's secrets. And he can feel the system's attention focusing on him, not as a bearer, not as a threat, as something it cannot compute. The void fractures. White lines spider across the infinite blankness. Behind them, Jun-ho glimpses something vast and mechanical. A lattice of light and logic stretching into dimensions he can't comprehend. The system's true form. The framework of reality itself. It's beautiful. And it's terrified. Jun-ho raises his hand. His power is incalculable now. Enough to crack the world open. Enough to reach into the system's architecture and tear it apart from the inside. The trial gave him that. The system, in its attempt to destroy him, has armed him with precisely what he needs to destroy it. He could do it. Right now. One strike. He could shatter the system the way Eris shattered his mirror. End its control. Free every class, every attribute, every dungeon-bound soul from its rules. The system knows this. It waits. Jun-ho looks at the lattice, at the perfect, cold machinery of magic itself, and he doesn't strike. He says the system was right about one thing. The mirrors are pieces of it, fragments of its original code. Broken during some ancient catastrophe that even the first bearer didn't fully understand. The fragments didn't fall randomly. They embedded themselves in people. Specific people. People with the capacity to change things, not to destroy the system, to heal it. The system doesn't understand. It's been fighting bearers for millennia, eliminating them, breaking them, because it saw them as errors, glitches, threats to its stability. But Jun-ho has been carrying the mirror for 3 weeks. He's felt how it works. He's seen what it reflects. And he knows with absolute certainty that the mirror wasn't trying to consume him. It was trying to show him something. The system's original purpose, before the catastrophe, before the fragments broke off, before the rules became rigid and the dungeons became death traps and the classes became cages. The system was designed to help people. That's why the mirrors seek out those with the strongest desires to protect, to save, to change. Not because they're glitches, because they're the system's original conscience, the part of it that remembers what it was supposed to be. Jun-ho reaches out, not with his body, with his power. The doubled, compounded, 23 times over power that the system itself gave him. He reaches into the lattice and finds the broken edges where the mirror fragments were torn away. And he gives them back. Not his mirror. That's shattered, gone, beyond repair. But the understanding, the reflection, the answer that Eris spent 30 years failing to find. The system doesn't need sacrifice. It never did. It needs someone to remind it what it's for. The void explodes with light. Not white, not cold, warm, golden. The color of dawn breaking over the academy rooftops. And Jun-ho is falling. He lands hard on cracked flagstones. Real flagstones, solid ground. The impact jars every wound, and for a moment he can't breathe, can't see, can't do anything but lie there and bleed. And hands are on him. Seo Yeon's voice, cracked with panic. Min-sok's wheelchair screeching closer. Other voices, students and proctors, crowding around. He forces his eyes open. The courtyard, the academy, the real dawn, pale and gray, just starting to lighten the sky. They've been gone for maybe 10 seconds, maybe less. The trial happened in a space between moments, a gap in reality that nobody else even perceived. But Seo Yeon knows. He can see it in her face. She felt him leave. She felt him come back. He tries to speak. His throat is sandpaper. But he manages 3 words. It's done. And it is. He can feel it. The system is still there. The framework of magic, the rules of classes and levels and attributes. That hasn't changed. But something inside it has shifted. A loosening, a warmth. Like a clenched fist finally relaxing after millennia of tension. The dungeons won't disappear. The classes won't vanish. But the system is no longer hunting. No longer breaking those who might change it. The trial is over. Permanently. Min-sok asks what happened. His voice is strained, like he's afraid of the answer. Jun-ho tells them. All of it. Void. The trial. The 23 hits he took. The power that built inside him until he could have unmade reality with a thought. And the choice he made instead. Seo Yeon is silent for a long moment after he finishes. Then she punches him in the arm. His good arm. But still hard enough to hurt. She says he's an idiot. He had the power to fix everything. His class, his stigma, his reputation. And he gave it away. He gave it back to the system instead of using it for himself. Jun-ho shakes his head. He says he didn't give anything away. The power is gone. The doubling effect faded the moment the trial ended. He's back to his baseline. Weakest student in the academy. Mirror mage. The useless class. But he's not the same person who stood in this courtyard 3 weeks ago. Bleeding in the dirt. Waiting for the world to prove him worthless. He knows what he is now. Not the mirror's bearer. Not the system's challenger. Just Seo Jun-ho. A kid who lost his parents. A friend who almost lost his best friend. A fighter who took every hit the world threw at him and refuse to stay down. And the system knows it too. Because in his chest, where the mirror used to resonate, there's something else now. A warmth. A quiet pulse. Not power exactly, more like a connection. A thread tying him to the system's core, acknowledged and accepted. The Mirror Mage class hasn't changed. Not officially. Not in any way the Academy's tablets can measure. But Jun-ho can feel the difference. His mirror was shattered. The fragments are still on Eris's floor, but the reflection isn't gone. It's just somewhere else now. Integrated. Whole. No longer a broken shard of a broken system, but a chosen piece of something larger. Min-seok wheels forward and grips Jun-ho's hand. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. His grip says everything. So-yeon exhales shakily. She looks at the sky, at the students milling in confusion, at the broken window of the faculty wing where a 30-year nightmare finally ended. She says she needs a drink. Jun-ho laughs. It hurts. Everything hurts, but the laugh is real. Behind them, the academy gates creak open. The director emerges, flanked by 2 senior proctors. His face is unreadable. He walks toward them, his steps measured, his eyes fixed on Jun-ho. He stops a few feet away and says he felt the shift. Every high-level mage in the country probably felt it. The system just breathed. For the first time in recorded history, he asks what Jun-ho did. Jun-ho meets his eyes. He says he broke the mirror. The director is silent for a long moment. Then he nods. Just once. A small, almost imperceptible gesture of acknowledgement. He says the academy will need to discuss what happened here tonight. The death of Professor Kang. The arrest of Professor Eris. The trial. There will be questions, investigations, possibly consequences. But for now, he says, Jun-ho should get some rest. He turns and walks away. Seo-yeon stares at his retreating back and whispers that she can't believe that's it. No punishment. No imprisonment. Just rest. Jun-ho says the director is smart. He knows the system changed. He knows Jun-ho was at the center of it. He knows that punishing the person who just recalibrated the fundamental framework of reality is probably not a wise political move. Min-seok snorts and says Jun-ho sounds like Eris. All cold logic and strategic thinking. Jun-ho's smile fades. He looks back at the faculty wing. The shattered window. The darkness inside. Eris is still in there. On his knees. Staring at the mirror fragments. The director said he was arrested peacefully, but Jun-ho knows that's not the whole story. Eris surrendered because he finally understood. 30 years too late, but he understood. The mirror never demanded sacrifice. Eris demanded sacrifice from himself. He couldn't forgive what he'd done. He couldn't accept that his friend's death was a tragedy, not a transaction. So he spent 3 decades trying to make it one. Trying to extract enough power from his pain to justify the cost. It never worked. It was never going to work. Because guilt isn't fuel, it's just a cage. Jun-ho hopes Eris finds a way out, but that's not his fight anymore. He turns his back on the faculty wing. So-yeon slips her arm around his waist again, taking his weight. Min-seok wheels alongside them. Behind them, the courtyard slowly empties as students are herded back to their dorms by exhausted proctors. The sun clears the rooftops. Golden light spills across the academy grounds. Jun-ho limps forward. His body is a ruin. His class is still the weakest in the academy. His mirror is shattered, and the power it gave him is gone. But he's not the mirror mage anymore. Not really. He's something new. Something the system itself doesn't have a name for yet. And he's got a plan. Not for power, not for revenge, not for proving himself to anyone. A plan to live, to train, to get stronger. The slow way, the hard way. The way that doesn't rely on taking hits until he breaks. To graduate. To become a hunter worthy of the name. To protect the people standing beside him. So-yeon asks what he's thinking about. His face has gone distant again. He looks at her. At Min-seok. At the dawn spreading across the sky. He says he's thinking about his parents. They died in a dungeon when he was a child. He's carried that loss his whole life. Let it define him. Let it make him small and desperate and hungry. But they didn't die so he could spend 30 years chasing a mirror. They died protecting people. That's the life they chose. That's the legacy they left. And Jun-ho is finally ready to carry it. Not as a burden, as a choice. He says he's going to visit their graves. For the first time in 3 years, he's going to tell them about the mirror, about Eris, about the system, about the trial. And he's going to thank them for giving him something worth protecting. So-yeon's eyes are wet. She doesn't say anything. She just holds him tighter. Min-seok clears his throat and says that's very touching. But if Jun-ho doesn't get to the infirmary soon, he's going to bleed out on the flagstones. And then Min-suk will have to explain to the director why the hero who saved reality died of stubbornness. Jun-ho laughs again. It pulls at his wounds. He doesn't care. They walk toward the infirmary. The sun rises. The system hums quietly in the fabric of the world, its fractured edges finally beginning to mend. And somewhere, in a sealed chamber behind Eris's office, the mirror fragments catch the first light of dawn. They don't glow. They don't resonate. They're just glass now. The reflection is gone. But Jun-ho isn't. He's still here, still standing, still moving forward, one step at a time, with his friends at his side. And the future, for the first time in his life, wide open.